Welcome to the Aligned Sacred Alchemy podcast. I'm Raspreet Sagu, and I teach you how to manifest in a way that actually works for you and leads you to your soul's path and purpose by creating your own customized manifesting framework without the believe it and achieve it or think positive and vibe high mindset stuff that doesn't really take into account your lived experiences. If you're a conscious creator and ready to live your wildest dreams, instead of just fantasizing about them or trying to manifest them, then listen on as I bring spiritual principles to life through grounded experiences and real life situations, so you can be in a state of receiving and courageously manifest in and on purpose. Hello and welcome to this episode where I'm going to be talking to you about the difference between healing, coaching, and embodiment, which also includes aligned action, and knowing what's appropriate for you in your journey in the current season of your life. This is actually an excerpt of a conversation that I had with someone when I was explaining the deeper work that we were doing in creating their transformation. Because once you understand what it is that you're actually doing, why you're doing all of this stuff, the somatic stuff, the mindset stuff, the law of attraction, the energetic stuff, the healing, all of it, when you understand exactly how that's translating in the action that you're taking and what results that's going to be driving for you, I feel like a lot of people find it much easier to be grounded in that and know exactly what to do and stay motivated along the course. And this is something that I wish more people understood about themselves, because when you do, it clears up so much of the confusion, so much of that white noise. It creates this deep sigh of relief in every single cell, molecule, and atom of your being. And suddenly, what once seemed to be so confusing, so big, so overwhelming, becomes doable. Because you see exactly how you can break down the steps and become more efficient with what you're investing your time, your effort, your energy, and even your money in doing, learning, or implementing along the path in creating that change that you're asking for. So in this episode, I go into the actual transformation that takes you all the way through to your breakthrough, where your desired future lives. Some of the concepts that I talk to you in this episode are actually derived from a training that I once did called the 4 Phases of Transformation. And some of you may want to expand upon what we're going to be doing today. Others, this is going to be just enough. But for those of you who would like to purchase the replay for the training, you can do so. I will drop the link in the show notes. And just as a side note, if you are a member of my Translate community, you actually get access to this training as part of your membership. So if you'd like the training and all the other benefits of being part of that community, my coaching with you, laser coaching every single month, I highly recommend that you join that community. Again, I will link that in the show notes. But for today, I want to share with you the difference between healing, coaching, and taking aligned action. These are all buzzwords in the self-development industry, but what do they actually mean for you on a grounded level? I'll be breaking down what each of these stages looks like, both in terms of what's involved with each separate thing. So if you think of it as a Venn diagram, you've got the healing, you've got the embodiment, you've got the coaching aspect, and then there's that kind of shared space where they all intersect, the sweet spot. How all of these things, we're going to talk about how they all gel together to form this cohesive plan of action, which is the aligned action that so many people in the industry keep talking about, that actually creates the change in your life. I go into how they all intersect to form your life's purpose and unleash your unique creative flow. Now, for those of you who haven't been in my world for a while, your creative flow, in the context that I speak about it, is simply how you uniquely manifest. Now, I don't really love the term manifesting, and it's purely because of the collective connotation that seems to have attached itself to the word. Many times, people mistake manifesting for doing all the law of attraction work, the mindset stuff, flipping the lid on your emotions, changing it from negative to positive, all that jazz. But the way that I see it, manifesting is simply expressing your creativity, your natural, divine, inbuilt creativity that each and every single one of us has. Even if you're listening to this podcast and thinking, but I don't have a creative bone in my body. Even you. Because being creative isn't just about having an artistic flair or being good at painting or drawing or decorating or something that's physically like a physical art form or something that you can visually see, right? It's the way that you show up in real life. Creativity is how you think about yourself and your own gifts and talents, and then how that gets translated into the canvas of your life, if you will. All right? It's more about who you become during the course of bringing into fruition your goals, your dreams, your desires. This is something that so many people overlook in their manifesting journey. And that's why I don't love using the word manifesting. I will use it because people seem to know what that means. But for me, it's more about creating the person that you become, intentionally creating sets of behaviors, your specific energetic signature with intention, radiating that out and allowing it to manifest or translate into that beautiful painting of your life, right? I'm going with the artistic metaphor here, but you get what I mean, right? It breaks my heart when so many clients have come up to me and said that they've tried these many different things, these many modalities, these frameworks, these strategies, this manifesting tool, all of those things, but nothing really seems to stick. So in sessions, when we're troubleshooting what's going on, it's usually because they are doing the wrong thing in relation to the phase of transformation that they are currently in. So if, like many of my clients, you are feeling frustrated, demotivated, and even defeated, and like you're on the verge of giving up on actualizing your desire, or you're compromising on your true desire, then listen carefully to this episode. Make notes. And please use the awareness and the information that you're getting from this and implement it into what you're actually doing. Because my intention is that by the end of this episode, you're going to start to understand that you are not the problem here. There is nothing to fix. You are not broken. You're not doing it wrong, and the thing that you are so deeply connected to having and experiencing in your life is absolutely possible for you. You may just need to understand exactly what phase of the actual transformation you are currently in and adjust what you are doing according to that. So, without further ado, let's get into this juicy conversation. So, the healing aspect of it, the way that I see it, is more geared towards the energetic shifts that happen when you're creating that conscious change, whatever you want to create. It's more to do with the intuitive side of things. It's more to do with accessing your unique brand of magic and creativity. So accessing your higher self, accessing all the gifts that are available to you on a spiritual level. Right? That's the healing aspect of things. I don't see healing as what people say, I'm upset, so I have to heal that emotion, or I've undergone this horrible traumatic experience and I have to heal from it. I don't necessarily view healing from that perspective. I view healing as you being fully expressed in your own creative flow. Whatever that may mean to individuals, it's going to be different. Like for some individuals, it may mean that you're addressing bad experiences from your past and then resolving whatever it is that happened back then. Yeah, but for the most part, if we just simplify everything and strip things down to their bare minimum, the skeleton of it is that healing is to do with energy, and it's to do with your spirit, and it's to do with your intuition, right? And then you have the coaching element, which I also bring into the work that I do, into my framework. And the coaching is actually to do with your conscious and unconscious thoughts, emotional regulation, going back, and it's not changing what happened in the past or even necessarily changing your perspective on what happened. Like with a lot of the healing stuff, it's like, look at it from the higher perspective, look at it from a soul perspective, and what virtues were you learning, what I mean, that has its time and place, but I don't think that's actually useful until you have addressed the emotions that get connected with that, and like connected to those experiences, and then where the shame stems from in those experiences, because it's usually shame or guilt which is the culprit, and shame, as the way that I see it, is not necessarily the emotion to deal with. I don't think it's an emotion. I don't look at it as an emotion. When I'm looking at people and when I'm scanning them energetically, or I'm doing my intuitive work and I see shame in its energetic form, it's almost like an entity that's standing alongside. It's like a parasitic entity of its own, right? And then there are emotions that are connected and they're tethered to the shame. So the coaching element helps with the bringing your conscious and cognitive awareness to the patterns that are happening, so that you can catch yourself in those patterns in your everyday life, right? You can interrupt those patterns. And now this is where the cognitive changes start happening. This is where the brain chemistry and the biochemistry of your literal brain and nervous system, that's where you do all that type of work. That's where the coaching element comes into it. And so you may use frameworks and tools like whatever coaching frameworks that you have and all of that. It's different to healing. It's very different. The kinds of questions you're asking, they're different.
The kind of self-inquiry you're doing is different.
The kind of observations you're making when you're using those tools, they're different to when you're doing a healing thing, right? That's from my perspective. And then you have the other piece of it, which is bringing your body in line with what you're doing in your mind and with your emotional regulation and shifting your emotional state on a cognitive level, which is the coaching, the mindset work, all of that is grouped into that. And then you have the decoupling from shame, deconstructing the shame, managing and processing those emotions that are attached to the shame. All of that happens within the umbrella of the coaching. The healing is accessing your intuition, accessing your higher self, accessing your spirit guides, doing ancestral work, looking at who in your team can help you. That's your life purpose stuff. That's all of the spirit type stuff, the spiritual beingness of your divine sacred soul self. And so that's what you're dealing with. But then we have this other thing as human beings that a lot of people, like a lot of other beings, don't have, which is the physical human body and the reality and the construct of the reality at this time. And a lot of spiritual healers and even coaches completely bypass this aspect of it. Yeah, they completely bypass the fact that we have certain rules and regulations that we kind of need to abide by if we're living at this time on this planet. Like, for example, a really easy example of that is if you have a mortgage on your house and you decide, okay, I'm not going to pay for my mortgage. What I'll do is I'll meditate and I'll send unconditional love to that person that I owe the money to. ain't gonna work in this reality. Not right now anyway. Maybe one day in the future that might be how it happens and there'll be a different form of exchange. But currently there is an exchange that is created with money. Money is a man-made concept and construct. But currently in this reality, it is a real thing. And if you're living as a human being on this planet, you need money. You cannot pay your bills because you feel abundant inside, but you have nothing in your bank account. That just doesn't work in this reality, right? So this is where you have to get really radically honest with yourself about what are the human aspects of my reality, what are the human constraints of this reality that I still have to honor in my experience. And part of that is your physical body, right? Part of that is how your nervous system responds. And how your nervous system responds to things is also governed by your primal instinctual behaviors, inherited survival mechanisms. And so, yes, you're doing the mindset work over there with the coaching, and then with the healing, you're bringing your energy, you're aligning things, you're actually creating that kind of magnetism and clearing up your aura so that you're attracting, like what law of attraction teaches you, you're attracting what you want to attract in your life rather than manifesting by default, right? But then your body, if you have not learned to honor your body's physical and human reactions and processes, then those two things that you're doing, all the work that you're doing with your mindset, all the work that you're doing with the coaching, all the work that you're doing with the healing, it cannot stick. You have to bring it down to a physiological level. So you have to be aware of how you get to regulate your nervous system. And what a lot of people do with the nervous system stuff and the emotional stuff is they feel like I have to get to a point where I'm completely regulated all the time. And that's bullshit. You cannot get to a regulated, like I'm always regulated kind of thing. Because you're a human. You are literally not designed to be regulated all of the time. That actually would be unhealthy, because if you were that regulated, if there was an actual threat and you went out and a bus was heading towards you, and you have learned to regulate your system so much that you override the natural processes, and you have this speeding bus coming towards you, you're not going to jump out of the way because you wouldn't feel the fear. You wouldn't feel the fear. Your survival instincts wouldn't kick in. And how smart is that then if you're living in a human reality? Right? You will not be able to respond to actual threats appropriately. And so there are three of these key elements. And I think that what I've certainly been doing in the past is just focusing on one or the other of these elements. So I've gone through the phase where I went through all the healing stuff, and I was only doing the healing stuff. So I was only really looking at my energy and getting congruent with what I wanted and the energy of my desires and law of attraction and doing all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's brilliant. It kind of will prime you, but then you're going to get to a point where you feel stuck. You can't move further from that. Something's like blocking you, and there's this invisible block that you can't really get past. And you don't know, and it's very frustrating because you've done all the work, and it's like, well, why isn't this working? Because I've changed this, I've downloaded these beliefs, I've done the healing of the soul, I've done my inner child healing and all of that. What's going on here? But what I was overlooking at that time was actually the coaching stuff, which was the emotional regulation, going back and looking at those experiences and looking at how to deconstruct the shame. I'm not saying that you will never feel ashamed again. I'm not saying that shame is a bad thing. I'm just saying so you understand it and you befriend it and you dig for the gold, you mine for the gold, because behind that shame, there is always a gift. Behind those shadows, there are always gifts. And you go and you extract those gifts. You get all of that. You understand why. As soon as you understand and you have compassion for yourself and you see why you've been doing those things, and your whole life's A, going to make sense, right? And B, you will naturally have so much love and compassion and forgiveness for yourself and acceptance. So all the places where you were looking for that acceptance from other people or other things, you don't need that anymore because you have that within yourself. And so now your visibility stuff, which you've been doing so much mindset work on and so much healing. I want to be more visible. I want to be more visible because I want to attract my soulmate, or I want my soulmate clients, or I want these opportunities and I just want to be seen for these opportunities, or whatever it is, right? Suddenly, all of that work can integrate. But I was skipping past that because I was thinking, coaching's not for me. Coaching is like, it's very much to do with the mind. It's very much to do with blah, 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 blah. And then the somatics of it, I just totally wasn't looking at. I would do things like, oh yeah, let's do yoga. Let's move. Let's get this energy moving. But it's so much more than that. It's about recognizing your personal nervous system responses, because they may be different from other people. You've got to recognize what that is for you in your real time and real life situations that you have to live through day by day, your personal experiences. And you've got to recognize what they feel like. What are the sensations in your body when you're triggered and when you're activated? Because it may look very different and feel very different to someone else's response, depending on what you've lived through, when your lived experiences and your genetic line, what you've inherited from your mother wounds and your father wounds and their wounds and all of that kind of stuff. And so now you start looking at the whole big picture and working on each of these different kinds of elements. And as you understand that, you will see that your framework that you use to heal, to manifest, to find your life purpose, to have more fulfillment and joy and creativity and all of those things in your life, it becomes very customized. It has to be customized to you. It has to be customized for what you are here for in this lifetime. Why did you even decide to incarnate in this lifetime? What is your purpose of being here? What are the gifts and the frequencies that you have to share that only you can? There's no other person on this planet Earth of 8 billion other people who can do it in the way that you can. And that's why you were called here in the first place, to have that unique stamp and your unique frequency. And so when you have this framework, you get to access all of that. And that's why I love this work.
And so there you have it, the difference between the healing, the coaching, and the embodiment phases of your transformational journey, and how it all links together, and how all of this is fluid, and you get to assess this every single day. It's going to be different, and you may dip into going into the awareness where you become aware of all the internalizations that you have. That's where you're interrupting old habituated patterns to intentionally create new ones. And then you've got the embodiment process where you're deepening and anchoring into these new patterns. That's where a lot of the healing work comes in. That's where you get to initiate rapid regenerative change at a cellular level. And then you've got the creative flow and the expression. And this is where you're deepening and following your intuition. It's where you're connecting to your guides. It's where you're doing more of the energetic work. And all of these things dance with each other. So if you want to find out more, if you've loved this episode, you want to know more about this, and you're like, I really need to figure this out and see how this actually applies to me in my life with what I would like to manifest in my life, you're in luck, because Translate is a perfect opportunity for you to do that. What we focus on in Translate is the foundation. It's where you start becoming aware of the internalizations, where you start to understand what patterns that need to be interrupted, how to translate that energy and translate all the manifesting tools, practices, knowledge, all of the stuff that you already have in your toolkit, that you're already well versed with, how to customize it so that it actually works for you. So if you feel ready to step into that and step into your unique brilliance, your unique way of creating and manifesting in and on purpose, then come join us. I will drop the link in the show notes. And that's all for now. Happy creating. If you'd like a regular dose of magic and tips on how to create alignment in your energy through embodied wisdom and using spiritual laws and mindset work to make the intangible energetic shifts and translate them into tangible shifts in a way that supports how you're uniquely wired to manifest, get onto my email community. You can sign up to receive my free Creative Blueprint Shadows guide on how to identify shadows that can negatively impact your desires from showing up and how to alchemize them into gifts so you can leverage them and use them to manifest more effectively. It's been known to activate deep healing and understanding, and many people have uncovered and released deep blocks that have helped them to actualize some of their most heartfelt desires that they'd nearly given up on. The link's in the show notes if this is calling to you. Until next time, happy creating.